Good morning, CLC. Welcome to another virtual rendition of service this morning. We are happy to have you all with us. We hope you've had a wonderful week, and we are grateful that we can join you right now in welcoming in our next new week. So with that, I invite everyone to take a few deep breaths. Calm and center your body. Calm and center your mind. Allow yourself to put all thoughts aside and be here now. There is one life, one love, one unlimited source of all. It is in the midst of me, just as it is in the midst of each and every individual within the sound of my voice. I am so deeply grateful for that knowing. I am grateful that we can be here today, virtually, with one another, sharing in this moment, sharing in this message, knowing how essential it is for us to join as one. With this gratitude, with this love, I move into our inner healing experience. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I am willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled, and gratefully speak these words: I accept.
I accept.
Knowing that an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace and fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. It can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who's not physically present in the room this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and I say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes to the world around me, turn joyfully to all the people that are with me, virtually as well as present in my home, and share in gratitude and confidence with them by saying, I'm grateful for the good in all of your lives.
I welcome you here to Creative Life Spiritual Center today. I'm Jesse Jennings. So far you've met Danielle Mercadale, practitioner and our board president who gave the opening. Reverend Lisa Ryan is in the house too, and she will close us out as we finish more or less around the noon hour. Today is about Feed My Sheep. Did I not mention Jeffrey Oshman? Jeffrey Oshman, once again, ladies and gentlemen, without him, none of this would be possible. The driving force behind the Creative Life Sunday experience. Today is about Feed My Sheep, and this is from the Gospel of John. We're closing out some thoughts on the Gospel of John this week, the 21st chapter. Next week, we'll begin a series drawn from a new collection of essays, newly published collection of essays from 1967, they actually are, by Alan Watts, called Just So. His son Mark is his archivist and runs the Watts website where you can hear recordings of his. And we're going to go through some really interesting stuff that he's got in these essays starting next Sunday through the 5 Sundays of March, which will include Mother's Day. We are virtual here at Creative Life, and for those of you who've asked, we're going to remain so, broadcasting on Facebook Live. Did I call it broadcasting? Streaming. I have to crawl into the 21st century. Yes. And we're not making tapes. On Facebook Live and later on YouTube, edited by Lisa, we're going to keep doing this forever. But eventually we're going to have people in the room again, more than just the 5 of us. And we miss you. I want you to know that. We miss you. It's not the same. It's okay for now, but it's not the same. We miss you being here. We wish you were here. And when the time is right, and we will know when it is, that we can both be safe and comfortable, then we will reopen the doors and we'll go back to more or less our usual Sunday experience. But for those of you who are watching at a distance, and I know there are a number of you around the country, we really appreciate that, because we know you have a choice in what you tune into. For those of you who are watching this, we're going to keep doing this because we feel like we've gotten, fairly good at it. So, to feed my sheep. Last week I mentioned to you how into a locked room came Jesus after his resurrection. He appears to the disciples and he says, peace be unto you. Because they were probably freaking out a little. Well, we know they were. Peace be unto you. And a few passages later he asks Peter, he says, do you love me? He asks him this 3 times. Because Peter, as you'll recall, had 3 times denied him in the garden. He says, do you love me? And Peter says, well, you know I do. Kind of, how can I prove it? Jesus says, feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. And then he says, there was a time when you were young and you girded yourself, you dressed yourself, and you went where you wanted. There's a time when you'll be old and you'll reach out your hand for someone else to dress you, and they will carry you where you need to go. And he's describing the passage of time and the movement of generations. As he said before, there'll come a time when I'm not here and I will return. And in metaphysical teaching, we tend to think of his return as being he returns through us. He returns through us, through our actions. So when he says to Peter, 2 millennia ago, feed my sheep, he's talking to us today to feed his sheep. How do we do that? Well, Brian already gave the whole thing away, you see, in his run-up to the song. So I have very little to add to this. But in the run-up to the song where his intro, where he said, we look at it as a metaphor. We take it metaphysically, to feed the sheep, spiritual food. Well, I thought, yeah, but let me not jump to that. So I looked up what sheep eat, because I didn't know, not being a shepherd. So I researched. I want you to know, I did this for you. I researched what sheep eat. Sheep eat not lasagna like Garfield. They eat grass. And they prefer a thing called a forb, F-O-R-B. This is a new word to me. Have you ever heard of a forb? A forb is the thing in your lawn or pasture that's not a grass. It's an herb, it's a broad-leafed weed, but it's not a grass. And sheep really like these things. It's that kind of spinachy looking thing with the big fat leaves that comes up in your St. Augustine grass. And so if you want a forb-free lawn, you should get a sheep. It'll take care of it. This is what sheep eat. So was he talking about feeding sheep grass? No, he was talking about feeding sheep what they love and what's good for them. And you get the idea, this is what we're doing. This is the nature of spiritual work, is to feed the sheep. To feed the sheep good information, to feed the sheep wholesome awareness. And sheep in this expression is not, it's not a diminutive term to call someone a sheep. We think of sheep in the modern sense as being very docile and kind of lacking in personality, lacking in will, lacking in drive. No one wants to be called a sheep. A pastor is a person, it's another term for shepherd. A pastor guides sheep. People are not sheep. People have willpower. People have agency, in their lives. But 2,000 years ago, and still today, in agrarian economies, agrarian societies, where there are shepherds keeping watch over their flocks by night, the relationship to the sheep is one of gentle care. It's a custodial sort of relationship. So it's not about being moved around. It's not about having choice. It's about being cared for, especially in a creative sort of way, in a heartfelt sort of way. This is how we feed our sheep. So this week I'm reading about how there's this couple. They had a photograph of the couple, a man and a woman, in their 80s. And I don't know their relationship. I called them a couple. I don't think they're married, because the situation that they're facing, I think, would be made better if they were married, because they're separated. They're separated by a border lockdown. For all I know, they're brother and sister, but they're a man and a woman in their 80s at the Canadian border. And they can't cross to be with one another. One's on the Canadian side, one's on the American side. So somebody with consciousness, somebody feeding their sheep, set up a card table that straddles the border. There's a chair on one side, a chair on the other. On the card table there sits a teapot. And a picture of these two sitting there, talking to each other across the table. They can't be together, but they meet there. Is it every day? I don't know how often. They meet there to meet the case. Something comes in and it has us meet the case. It has us come up with the creative solution to suffering in the world. Whether it's global suffering, personal suffering, these two who have spent decades on the planet, in their twilight years, they have an opportunity until the borders reopen to sit and have tea together. It's a beautiful thing. I listen to trains in the night. There's a train that crosses up kind of where I live. It's across the freeway. You can hear it at night, and it pulls the long whistles as the trains do as they're passing through to clear the tracks. But now you'll hear it give short bursts of the whistle too, not usually at night, but at various times during the day. And if you're out driving around, you may hear the 18-wheelers pull their horns in short bursts. They're doing this especially as they're passing by hospitals. They're doing this especially as they're passing by where healthcare workers and other frontline workers, like Lisa, for example, are going to work. Just to say, we're with you, we're with you. That's feeding sheep. That's feeding sheep. And in the consciousness of the lockdowns and the shutdowns and the separations in the different states with their different outlooks and different policies, different counties and towns and so on, they had a picture in the news just this morning of the poorest area in the poorest state in Mississippi. There is an alley they showed probably to make the point of being decrepit. It's got overgrown weeds and stuff and broken windows, an alley between two buildings. And somebody has written in graffiti on the wall, stenciled actually, very neatly, "Strength is within. Mind your heart." The poorest place in the poorest state, strength is within. Mind your heart. Somebody's going to see that, and they're going to carry that into old age. They're going to take that awareness with them, and it's going to strengthen them, and it's going to make them a better person. And when they're lost, when they're confused, they're going to look within. Maybe not at first by habit, but at first by direction, by advice. Somebody said, look within, let me try that. And they're going to find within what they're looking for, and they're going to keep looking within, and the next thing you know, it's a habit. And that right there is the key to successful spiritual practice, is the building of a habit. Because we come into this teaching and we read the textbook and all this information, we sit through classes and workshops and talks like these, and it all seems really new to us and kind of alien until we start to implement it. And when we implement it, it is its own reward. It starts to work right away. Suddenly we feel differently about things. Suddenly we're not as in despair as we were. We still have ups and downs, but our ups are higher, our downs are higher. You know? Suddenly the whole thing is sort of lifted up, and we like that. And so like a sheep to a fork, we go back to the book, we go back to the class, and we go back to the conversation with each other. We pick this up. Danielle Mercadale, who is sitting here monitoring your commentary and so on Facebook, just completed Heartfelt Living. She didn't need to do that. She's a licensed practitioner. She's had every class just about we offer. But she came back and she took Heartfelt Living. You know why? Not because she lost a step. Not because she had some rough edges she needed polished off. She came back to take Heartfelt Living because she wanted to see that information one more time and to be there to support the people who were seeing it for the first time. She came to it in the way that I go to it. When I heard there was a new Alan Watts collection coming out, I dropped everything to order it. And it showed up, and then I dropped everything to read it. Because I'm hungry for it, because I built a habit, because I know this is good stuff. Now you don't eat every bit of it. Neither does the sheep. Neither do you with a plate full of food. You probably leave a little, you know? Not every word, like I mentioned last week talking about Emmett Fox, not every word falls on my ears with grace. Some things I'd have put that differently, or I just don't agree, or it's irrelevant to me, or it's boring or something. And that comprises typically about 5% of whatever it is of a metaphysical nature that I read, and 95% of it is muscle building. 95% of it gives me strength, and I rush in here to pass it on to you. This is how we feed our sheep. When you feed the sheep, they get stronger. Then they have other sheep. Pretty soon you've got a whole flock of sheep out there. The ideas I'm talking about here, not just herd building, not animal husbandry so much as the development of ideas. You pass the idea along and it catches on, and suddenly somebody somewhere, they're coming up with something, and it's profound, and it's deep, and it's metaphysical, and they're not a student of metaphysics, they don't think, but that's how it comes across. I read something like that this week. It's a meme. It was on Pinterest, and it got passed along to me, and it's anonymous. And it says this, talking about times like these. Actually, I'm going to reverse it the way that it says, because it makes more sense to me if you reverse the two clauses of the thing. What it said was, we're not all in the same boat, but we are all in the same storm. And that made so much sense to me. We're in the same storm, which is the situation that I don't have to describe, but our boats are different. Because as we talked about these past 6 weeks now that we've been doing this in quarantine, in isolation, some people are suffering more than others, and some people are suffering less than others. Everybody's in their own type boat. And we can't judge, not just because it's not right to, but you just can't logically judge. You can't efficiently judge. It'd be nice to have efficient judgment once in a while, because then we can kind of get away with it. No, never. Never happens. Can't efficiently judge. I look at somebody over here, I say, well, they've got it going on. I mean, they've got everything they need, and they're just rolling in wealth and this, and so that I know they're happy, and I know they're content. I know nothing of the sort. I know nothing of the sort. All I see is what I perceive. And actually, all I see is my own perceptive filters. This side of my perceptive filters, my judgment staring back at me. That's all I see. And similarly, I see somebody else and I say, oh, that poor wretched soul, they haven't a chance. And I don't know that. So when I withdraw those judgments, then I can be of service in the world. Because I can meet people where they are, not where I think they are, not where I feel they should be. I can meet people where they are, and I can have them articulate their needs and then meet those needs. And some people right now need money, and some people need food, and we have an event coming up that Danielle's going to tell you about where we're going to join with, we're going to meet our obligation. It's our turn to meet our obligation to serve in the community. Some people need a place to stay, some people need a job, some people need a business that they no longer have. And some people don't need any of that stuff, but they're anxious and they're sleepless. And I was reading about even pets are weird right now. I don't have a pet. If I got one, it might be a sheep now that I'm thinking about it. They don't eat much, just forks. But pets are being weird. Pets are a little neurotic right now. Their owners are home. We don't call them owners. They're human companions. They're home all day. It's like, what are you doing here? And they can't get away with the stuff that they usually run amok in the house with while you're not there. So they're a little neurotic and weird, No, I'm serious. And so people are having experiences of anxiety. People are wondering if the world's going to end. People are getting political, and they're getting a little all up in their angst and stuff, and you see people driving kind of strangely right now because the roads are empty. Does this mean I should go faster or slower or what? Or should I even be out here? Tomorrow in this county there's a mask order going into effect. We're not wearing masks today because it's not yet in effect, plus we're indoors in a private place, you know. And everybody has an opinion about that. Okay, that's part of the human condition. Now, here's part of the spiritual condition. Back of all of that stuff. There's a place, as I've said, where nothing has ever been wrong. There's a place where nothing has ever been needed. There's a place where nothing has ever been confused. Where there's never been conflict in the least, there is a place. There is a heavenly estate. If you want to get to heaven, over on the other shore. The other shore is the other. See what I'm doing here with your song? The other shore is the other side of your judgments. That's the other shore. Just across the way from where I'm separate from my good. How do I get to that other shore? I build a bridge using what? Consciousness. My strength is within. Using consciousness, using thought, wrapped in feeling, brick by brick. I build a bridge from where I am to that other shore, and it looks like heaven. I realize when I encounter difficult, troubled, conflicted, upset people, that they're scared. I realize there's a part of me that's scared. And if I'm handling it better, it's because I've learned tools to handle it better, which somebody taught me, or at least made available to me. I'm grateful to everybody who taught me meditation, who taught me prayer. Some of them actually intended to. You follow what I mean by that? Some of it was like, welcome to a class on prayer and meditation, and that was kind of what they set out to do, and other people showed me how to do it by not doing it. And other people showed me by a positive example, but they didn't know I was looking. And I watched people, and we talked about this a long time ago. When I first came into this teaching, somebody brought up how more people come to Science of Mind through how their companions in life react to situations that have ever come to us through books or material, deliberate material. People watch, and they used to have a column in the magazine a long time ago of, so long ago, people were driving coupes and stuff and wearing bowler hats and going to work in long departed industries. So we're talking like, I don't know, the 30s, probably during the Depression. They used to have a column in the magazine, and you can find the old issues, of course. It's hilarious and funny, but it was about real life situations where somebody handled change well, somebody handled choices well, somebody sat down on a train, in a train car, and said, I'm very talking to the stranger next to them, I'm very concerned about such and such happening in my life. And the person they were talking to happened to be a student of Science of Mind, who said to them, you realize you have a choice about how you can interpret this, how you can experience this. You have a place within that you can go to. And they're like, I never knew that. We watch, and then they turn to this person who's giving them this advice, and they say, now, where are you getting all this? Or Joe at the water cooler at work, where everybody else is standing around bad-mouthing the boss. Oh, this company, I hate this, I hate working here. Joe's this ray of sunshine, you know? It's like, everything's fine. Well, Joe, what do you know that we don't? You have some kind of deep insight into the future of the company? No. Joe had a deep insight into Joe. He knew what made him tick, and that was what. And so people are like, wow, how do I get that? And to close the deal, see, Joe would have said, well, you come to the Science of Mind Center with me, you come take this class, you'll have everything you need. But that's a little on the nose of Joe to do that. So what Joe instead would say is, realize you have a choice of what to think and how to feel. Realize that when you put thought and feeling together into this dynamic package called belief, that's when you can move mountains. And while you may not need to move an actual mountain in your life that looks like, well, a large dirt mountain, you have the boss. That's your mountain. You have this job. That's your mountain. You have this quarantine. That's your mountain. You have the future, and so on. These are all the mountains that you can move. And you can move them in a variety of ways. You can go over them, under them, around them, or just disappear them altogether. You don't know. And you leave that part alone. You don't know how it's going to take place. You just know that it's going to take place. So this is what happens when we feed our sheep. So who are the sheep? Well, the sheep are the people around us that we serve to inspire and uplift. And the sheep are also within us that we are feeding constantly with good information. And what I want you to know more than anything else as we close this, you my dear friends and loved ones, many of whom, according to what I'm seeing online, I've never met. You've not been in this room. We actually have a room. It's back there. It's got chairs in it. We have a whole campus here. This is not a stage that we're working from, that's fabricated just for this show. We have a whole center here. And what I want you to know is there's a force at work in the world that's greater than a virus, that's greater than fear of a virus, that's greater than political enmity and economic turmoil and all the rest of it. There's a force in this world that's been around. 2,000 years ago, Jesus intimately was acquainted with this force. He knew about it. And he shared it with people. And they sidled up to him and they said, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you forgive like that? How do you manifest? Because that got their attention. But then on a deeper level, how do you forgive and how do you let go? And how do you let them arrest you? How do you let them take your life? How are you so sure you didn't lose it for good? How do you do that? He knew about that, and so he fed them in that way. But 2,000 years before him, they knew about it. And as long as there have been sentient beings on this planet, we've known about this force. We've known about this force. This amazing thing that is as alive today as it ever was, and it's right there for the grasping. A lot of people are afraid of it. They look at it and they say, oh, I don't know, spiritual power, this might electrocute me or something. No, you grab it, you hold it, and you're one with it, and all of a sudden it flows through you. And you know what to do, and you know how to do it. So what I'm knowing for each of you, I'm going to close with treatment now. If you're new with us, the treatment is accompanied by piano music. A treatment is an affirmative prayer. It's a scientific prayer. It's a scientific prayer. It's based in a process of the conduct of thought. And it goes like this. There is one life. That life is spirit. That life is my source. That life is all the life there is. Therefore, that life is my life right now. That life has always been my life. Prior to this moment, prior to my being born, prior to my coming into eternity, if there ever was such a time, that life was there. And that life is at the greatest distance, past the cosmological horizon, out into infinity, where light cannot even travel from. This same source is the creator of that space and is fully present at every point within it, just as it is within every point here and within me and within you. This word that I speak is for everyone watching, everyone listening. Right now, I affirm and know right where each one is, there is peace, there is a calmness, and there's also an excitement, not in an anxious way, not in a disturbed sort of way, but an excitement, a thrill about the future that starts this moment. And a wealth of ideas for what to do, what to create, how to fashion beauty and wonder and kindness in newer and more expressive forms than they've ever been in before. How to unite the separated. How to uplift the fallen. How to bring inspiration to an alley between buildings in an area called Poor. And have like the whistle of a train in the night to simply signal to all who hear it, you got this. You got this. You have what it takes because you are what it takes. Into each one of us now. This awareness has come, is flourishing. It is manna in the wilderness. It is the forb on the lawn. It is the food, the sustenance, the good. For this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere I turn. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
All right. Well, I guess we're ready. Normally on Wednesday evenings I do the opening meditation. So I say, "All right, we're ready to get this party started." So I guess I'm going to say we're ready to close this party down. But y'all are more than welcome to keep partying online. As Danielle said, if you go to our Facebook page and click on videos, any of the videos that we have been doing are still stored there, and that one of the reasons why we've been putting the date on it, so the date and the title, so you know which video you're clicking into. Facebook sometimes chooses strange thumbnails. All right, so then I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath. Take one more nice deep breath. And as you take that breath, relax your shoulders. And as you breathe out, let those shoulders drop. Let your body relax. Let your tongue drop into its place in your mouth, not up against the roof. Take one more nice deep breath. Feel the relaxation flowing through you. And know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And as I am a part of that love, so too do I know that each and every one of you are a part of that love. That love flows through you, in you, as you. You are a divine child of God. That love is who you are. And as you move through this week, know that we are with you. Know that we are loving on you. And know that Spirit is loving on you. And as we virtually love on each other, feel that love spreading out throughout the world. Feel that love touching places that you never knew even existed. We have found new and creative ways to connect, and we are finding new and even more creative ways to keep connecting. And so, relax. Love yourself. And enter into that gratitude. The only prayer you say is thank you. That is enough. And I release my word into law, knowing it is done, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I
I
am.
choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it. I use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.